The salvage beacon pulsed weakly through the debris field, almost lost among the twisted metal fragments that had once been a cargo freighter. Marcus Grant's scanner picked up the signal during his routine sweep of Sector 9, a region so remote that most salvagers considered it a waste of fuel. He should have ignored it. 3 years working the Outer Rim had taught him that distress calls in dead zones usually meant pirates, traps, or corpses. But something made him alter course, perhaps the particular frequency of the beacon, or maybe just the bone-deep loneliness that came with talking to nobody but his ship's computer for months on end. The wreckage came into view slowly, a small courier vessel split nearly in half. Marcus maneuvered his tugboat closer, magnetic grapples extended, expecting nothing. Then his thermal scatter lit up, one life sign, faint but steady, in what remained of the cockpit. Well, damn, he muttered, already calculating the oxygen he'd need to share. The rescue took 4 hours. The courier's hull had compressed around the pilot's seat, creating a nightmare of torn metal and sparking wiring. Marcus cut through it all with patient precision, his hands steady despite the voice in his head screaming that he was wasting time, that whoever was inside was probably already gone, that he should just leave like he'd learned to leave everything else behind. When he finally pulled her free, she was unconscious but breathing. Blue skin marked her as Andrelian, one of the newer species to join the galactic assembly. Her flight suit was torn, and dark blood seeped from a gash across her forehead. Marcus carried her to his ship's tiny medical bay and let the automated systems take over. She woke 3 days later. Marcus was in the engine room, hands deep in the guts of the primary coolant system, when the medical bay's alert chimed. By the time he reached her, she was already sitting up, eyes wide and searching. "Your ship," she said immediately, her translator rendering her words in flat, mechanical tones. "Is it damaged?" "My ship's fine," Marcus said, holding up his hands in what he hoped was a calming gesture. "You're on my salvage tug. I found you in the debris field." She relaxed slightly, though her hands remained clenched on the edge of the medical bed. "How long?" 3 days. "Your ship's a total loss, I'm afraid." "What happened?" Her name was Lyra, and she'd been transporting classified research data when her hyperdrive failed catastrophically. No pirates, no ambush, just mechanical failure at the worst possible moment. The explosion had crippled her ship instantly, leaving her drifting in a sector where rescue might never come. "I transmitted my findings before the main systems died," she said quietly. "The data reached its destination. I completed my mission." There was something hollow in the way she said it, as if completing the mission was all that mattered, even if it meant dying alone in the dark. Marcus understood that feeling better than he wanted to. Over the following weeks, Lyra recovered her strength while Marcus continued his work. His tugboat wasn't equipped for passengers, so she made herself useful in the cramped spaces, helping with repairs and sorting through salvaged components. She had a knack for fixing things, her 3-fingered hands nimble and quick. They didn't talk much at first. Marcus had forgotten how to make conversation, and Lyra seemed content with silence. But the quiet between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of 2 people who understood that sometimes words just got in the way. The breakthrough came when Marcus's primary sensor array failed during a salvage operation. He'd been tracking a derelict military transport, and losing the sensors meant losing the prize. He slammed his fist against the console in frustration, a rare display of emotion. "Let me see it," Lyra said from behind him. He almost refused. 3 years of working alone had made him territorial about his equipment. But something in her expression stopped him, a quiet confidence that reminded him of who he used to be, back when he still believed he could fix things. She worked for 6 hours straight, barely stopping to eat. Marcus watched as she rewired entire sections of the sensor array, her movements precise and deliberate. When she finally powered it back on, the display blazed to life with crystal clarity better than it had functioned in months. "How did you learn to do that?" Marcus asked. "I was an engineer before I became a courier," Lyra said, wiping grease from her hands. "Ships, stations, anything that flies or floats. I was good at it." "Was?" She was quiet for a moment. "I made a mistake. A calculation error on a station repair. 3 people died because I missed a stress fracture in a support beam. After the inquiry, nobody would hire me for engineering work anymore. Courier jobs don't require recommendations." Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a recognition of shared pain. "I was a rescue pilot," he said, the words coming out before he could stop them. "Search and rescue, military contract. We got a distress call from a mining colony. I made the jump calculations myself, trying to save time. But I rushed it. Came out of hyperspace too close to an asteroid field. My co-pilot died in the crash. 12 colonists died waiting for a rescue that came too late." Lyra turned to look at him, really look at him, for the first time since she'd woken up. Her eyes were a deep violet, almost black in the dim light of the cockpit. "So you hide out here," she said softly, "salvaging broken things instead of saving living ones. And you ferry data packets across empty space instead of building anything that matters." They stared at each other, and Marcus saw his own self-imposed exile reflected in her face. 2 competent people destroyed by single moments of failure, running from their pasts in the emptiest corners of the galaxy. "This is stupid," Lyra said finally. "Completely stupid," Marcus agreed. Something changed between them after that. Lyra started redesigning the tugboat systems, improving efficiency and expanding capabilities. Marcus found himself teaching her the finer points of salvage work, sharing techniques he developed over years of solitary operation. They fell into an easy partnership, anticipating each other's needs and compensating for each other's weaknesses. The nightmare still came for both of them. Marcus would wake gasping, seeing his co-pilot's face in those final moments. Lyra would jolt awake muttering calculations, trying to find the error that had cost 3 lives. But now when the nightmares came, there was someone else awake in the darkness, someone who understood. 6 months after the rescue, they pulled into Outpost Meridian for supplies. It was barely more than a way station, a cluster of modules clinging to a processed-out asteroid, but it had a job board and breathable atmosphere. "There's a posting here," Lyra said, studying the display. "Engineering position on a new colony ship. They need someone to oversee life support systems during the voyage." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "You should apply. They need 2 engineers, primary and backup." He looked at her, understanding blooming slowly. "Lyra, I can't. You were a rescue pilot. You know ship systems inside and out. I've watched you work. You're brilliant at it. I killed someone because I made a mistake. So did I." She moved closer, her voice steady. "We can hide forever, Marcus. We can drift through debris fields picking up scraps, or we can try to be who we were supposed to be. We can try together." The old fear rose up in him, the certainty that he would fail again, that trusting himself meant risking other lives. But looking at Lyra, seeing the quiet determination in her eyes, he felt something else too. Hope, fragile as spun glass, but real nonetheless. "Together," he repeated. They submitted their applications jointly. The interview process was grueling, conducted over subspace communications with the colony ship's administrators. They asked about experience, about qualifications, about the gaps in their employment histories. Marcus told them about the accident, voice steady despite the old shame. Lyra did the same. The administrator was quiet for a long moment. "I appreciate your honesty. Both of you made mistakes. Both of you have spent years punishing yourselves for being human, or in your case, Andrelian. The question is whether you've learned from those mistakes." Every day, Lyra said quietly. Every single day, Marcus agreed. 2 weeks later, the acceptance message arrived. They celebrated in the cramped galley of the tugboat, drinking synthetic coffee and talking about the future, something neither of them had allowed themselves to do in years. The night before they were scheduled to leave for the colony ship, Marcus found Lyra in the cargo bay, staring at the piece of hull plating she'd saved from her destroyed courier. "Second thoughts?" he asked. "Terrified thoughts," she admitted. "What if we fail? What if people die because of us again?" Marcus stood beside her, looking at the twisted metal that represented her lowest moment. "Then we'll have failed trying to help people instead of hiding from them. That has to count for something." She smiled, the expression transforming her face. "You saved me, you know. Not just from the wreckage. From turning into someone I didn't want to be." "Funny," Marcus said. "I was going to say the same thing." They left the salvage tug in the capable hands of a young pilot at Outpost Meridian, someone who reminded Marcus of himself before everything went wrong. The colony ship was magnificent, a kilometer of gleaming hull designed to carry 10,000 people to a new world. Standing in the engineering bay, surrounded by humming machinery and blinking displays, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years.